4.5, completing the square. Here's another way to solve quadratics. Day 1 has no leading coefficient. These are the easier ones. So when we talk about completing the square, there's always some number that we can add onto the end of a quadratic in order to make it a perfect square trinomial. Perfect square trinomial can be written as a parentheses squared. Okay, and that number is half of the middle term. So it's b over 2 squared. Okay, if that's the number that's at the end here, this whole trinomial can be written as a single parenthesis squared. Find the value to create a perfect square trinomial. First, we're going to take this middle term and we're going to cut it in half. So we get 7, we square it, we put it in for the c, and that's the constant, that's the c. C equals 49. Once we have that, we can write our parentheses. It's just the variable. It's a plus because this sign is a plus, and then half of that middle value. Close parentheses, square it. All right, that's the perfect square trinomial. If we were to actually FOIL this out, first outside, inside, last, we would get x squared plus 14x in the middle plus that 49 from the 7 squared at the end. Sometimes we're going to have fractions with these. Number 2, okay, negative 9 over 2. That's half of the middle one, and we have to square that. Squaring a fraction is not hard. Just square the top, square the bottom. Okay, it's also a negative in this one, but just make note that anytime we square something, it turns positive. So this sign should always be a plus. So negative 9 squared, 81. 2 squared is 4. 81 over 4 is the c. Okay, our parenthesis variable, it's a minus 9 over 2 here. So that's what's going inside our parenthesis squared. If we have a perfect square trinomial, we can solve by square rooting. So let's check it to make sure it is a perfect square trinomial. So first thing to make sure is that so far we've only done ones that have a leading coefficient of 1. Okay, we're going to cut this middle one in half. We get a 3. 3 squared equals 9. So this is a perfect square trinomial. We can write it as x plus 3 squared. Once we have this, square root both sides. Okay, now remember from the last section, when we square root to get rid of a squared like this, we have to write in that plus minus. So x plus 3 equals plus minus 6, positive and negative 6. We're going to move this 3 to the other side, and we have negative 3 plus minus 6. So in other words, we have negative 3 plus 6. That's going to be one of our answers, and negative 3 minus 6. That's another answer. So our two answers are positive 3 and negative 9. Number 4, cut it in half. Negative 5 squared, positive 25. Okay, there's our equation. Square root it. Okay, we're getting rid of that squared there, which means we're putting in that plus minus. And just like the last one, add this 5 over to the other side. 5 plus minus 1. 5 plus 1 is 6. 5 minus 1 is 4. Those are our two answers. Number 5, this one has a leading coefficient here. Okay, we're going to do this one a little differently. So we covered this when we did factoring. We have to square root the first and the last term. We get a 2x and a 3. Okay, we want to see if we multiply those two numbers and double them, does it match the middle? Okay, so 2x times 3 doubled equals 12x. Does it match the middle one? We don't care about the sign. Okay, it does. They're both 12x. So our perfect square trinomial is just 2x minus 3. We take this sign right here, squared. Okay, square root, square root. All right, plus minus in front of the 5. Add 3. Okay, divide by 2. And simplify it. So all that leads up to these two problems. We want to solve the problem by completing the square. X squared plus 6x plus 4. If we took half of our 6 right here, we would get 3. 3 squared is not a 4. Okay, this is not a perfect square trinomial, but what we're going to do is we're going to make it into a perfect square trinomial. And to do that, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take this 4, we're going to move it to the other side by doing -4 on both sides. Okay, now we have the 4 over here, and we're going to complete the square on this left side. So now we take half of the 6. Okay, we get 3 squared, and we're going to put a 9 here. Since we're putting a 9 here, we want to put a 9 over there as well. So plus 9 plus 9. Okay, once we do that, we can rewrite our equation. So this turns into our x plus 3 squared. -4 plus 9 equals 5. And now it's just like one of those that we solved on the previous page. Square root. Okay, we have the plus minus in front of the 5. -3. And we can't simplify it any further than that, so that's our answer. -3 plus -5. 7, we're going to do the same thing. Take this 21, move it to the other side by subtracting it. Okay, complete the square. Half of this middle one gives us a 1. 1 squared is 1. Put it on both sides there. Okay, so this whole thing is x plus 1 squared equals -20. Square root. Okay, we can see we have radical -20. We're going to have to break that down, and it's going to have an I. All right, so let's go ahead and do that. So 5 for I. 4 is going to be a 2, so 2I radical 5. Okay, move this 1 to the other side, and we have our answer.